So as I promised today, I'd be doing a short tutorial on how to debug both on code blocks and on CLion. I'm gonna be doing it on a problem which I've already done. It's the fourth problem from my previous video with the matrix multiplication. So before everything, you need to make sure that you've set up your debugger, and the way to do that is in code blocks, go to settings, debugger, and here in your default thingy, you should, if you don't have this in your executable path, then you have to select the three dots and go to C program files times 86, code blocks min gw bin, and select gdb32.exe. So this is the file which you need, and then you'll find this link here and then press OK, and that means that your debugger should be set up. Now everything else is rather easy, and what you need to understand, well, there are just a few things which you need to understand, one of which is breakpoints. Wherever you want your program to stop while you're debugging, you need to set a breakpoint there. And the way to do that in most editors is by left clicking somewhere on the left side of your editor. So for example, left clicking in code blocks should be done here between the line numbers and the like collapsing indicators. And that's where you put a breakpoint. And the next time I debug a program, it will stop there. So let me just quickly show you what I mean. You can start a program using the debugger either by clicking on this red button here. So it says debug/continue, or by going here, debug and start/continue. It's basically the same button. So let's do that right now. Actually, let's not put it here. Let's put it here and start the debugger. And I have to drag this here. Now, there are a few windows which I'm really interested in and which I really want to see. The first one, of course, is my console. And the other one, which I want, is the watches. Now, I also have to bring this here. This watches window will contain all the local variables and all the static and actually global variables, which I have. I don't have any right now. So let's enter an n, which is, let's name it 5. And the moment I press 5, you will see that a few things popped up. The local variable n, which has the value 5. The matrix, the variable matrix, which just now is declared, and it has this address. K, which is not there yet, so it's uninitialized, and result, which is also not there and uninitialized, and I think it's the same for matrix. Now, let's also read this matrix and stop the debugger here next time. So how I continue the execution from this point is by clicking on debug/continue again. Now, be wary. If you don't have any breakpoints after this point, the program will just follow its course and stop. It won't stop anywhere in between. And if you don't have any instructions after which might stop it, for example, a scanf or a gets or something that requires input, then it will just run its course and stop. So I'm putting a breakpoint here somewhere. It doesn't really matter. I'm clicking on continue, and now I know that I have to input my matrix. So let's input 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh gosh, I'll have a lot of entering to do because my n is 5. Oh, good Lord. Should have picked a smaller n. And there we go. Now it stopped. Okay, great. So now I have my matrix here, which now has another value because it was allocated. And what I can do is I can write something like this. Maybe I'm interested in the 4th value on the 3rd row of my matrix. So I can write something like this. matrix of 2, which indicates the third row, and of 3, which indicates the fourth value. And that is 3. Let's see if it coincides with what we entered here. So matrix 2 of 3, and this is here, and indeed, it is a 3. Wonderful. Now let's see if we can do something else with this. No. Well, apparently it's a bit limited, this debugger. Matrix of 2. Okay, this gives us an address. Great. And it's not very helpful, honestly. Oh, bummer. Examine memory. Let's see what that brings up. That brings us here. Again, well, not great, not terrible, I guess. But not really helpful either. What else can we do? Okay, so we can dereference that. That's whatever. Okay. So basically what you could be doing here is adding variables, adding, I don't know, things which aren't already here and you want to examine. And these are all the watches you can view, and it's very nifty. It's really very nifty. So for example, let's just jump into this kth power of square matrix function, and actually we want to go here into multiply square matrices. Let's put a breakpoint here. So maybe I want, and I'll have to read this k value as well. Okay, there we go. Maybe I want to check some intermediate values for my sum, and I honestly don't want to act like a peasant and just print everything on the console, and I will refer to this method as being the peasant method from now on, instead of using the debugger using just printing everything to the console. That's the peasant method of doing things, now that you know how to debug something. Now, instead of being a peasant and doing that, I would actually just want to know how this sum variable evolves in time. And I put a breakpoint here, and I click on continue, and I see that it's getting larger and larger. And, you know, this operation might be trivial because I'm just adding some numbers, but maybe through a more complex algorithm, you would, I don't know, you would get a bigger or a more meaningful insight of what's going on there. And honestly, it's a lot easier than just printing everything to the console, and it's code-wise a lot clearer. Okay, so that's how you use a debugger. So and in case you want to stop it and close the whole thing because you realize that you've done something wrong, maybe you need to just click on this X, stop debugger. Careful, don't just exit, don't just press close here. That won't really work. You need to press this button over here, and that stops the debugger. Alrighty, now let's do the same thing in CLion. Now I have the same problem in CLion. I just copied it here, and well, in order first to make CLion work, because you'll probably be downloading it from Google, you will actually need to set up a toolkit chain. I think it's called, yeah, tool chains. Never mind. So you're gonna have to link it to a compiler, the MinGW compiler, and you actually don't need to download that. It's already in your CodeBlocks installation. So you will be prompted that there's no tool chain attached. So you will need to go to settings and basically just find your CodeBlocks install folder and select MinGW over here, and then everything will work just fine. Now everything else works pretty much the same way as in CLion. You just put a breakpoint somewhere, and then you run the app. The way you run it is by clicking on this bug icon on the right, not clicking on run. This actually triggers the debug. Now, one thing which I just found out that CLion has some issues with printf in debug mode. The text doesn't get shown unless you put this thing before every printf. That is a bit inconvenient, I would say, but maybe I'm just missing something and you guys can correct me. So let's just try this out. Alrighty, now I have this debugger halted here, and I'll just halt it after I read this dimension, which I want it to be 3 this time, as for it to not be too big. Okay, I've read it, and now I click on continue, and it's stuck here again. Great. So in this debugger tab, I have only n here, and I can't really put anything else. I mean, I could try, but the variable isn't allocated just yet. It's just nothing there. So why not just stop the execution here, actually after I read k. So now I have to just input these values for a 3x3 matrix, and k will be whatever, 9. And now the execution stopped here. And I click on the debugger tab and I see that I both have k and 9, but besides that I also have matrix. And I can go a bit deeper and see that the first element of the matrix is actually 3. Now I can click on new watch and put here matrix of 3, of 2, 2. Why not? And I get an integer, which is 2. Great. Does this coincide with what I have here? Yes, it does. What a surprise. Okay. Yeah, so everything else is pretty much the same. What does this do? Oh, this shows me an in-memory view. This is maddeningly unhelpful. What else can we do here? Inspect. Okay. Yeah, this is not helpful. What else? Add to watches, no. Evaluate. Okay, let's evaluate expression. Okay, evaluate. Oh, great. Now I have this row. Now, what happens if I evaluate the row? I get its first value. Okay, but this is unhelpful again. What else? Mute, add watch point. Well, not much else, I guess. Copy value to clipboard. Oh, this is the value. Oh, but that's not helpful. Anyways, you would just need to to add it manually if you want to go through the matrix values, I guess. And there's not much to it. Yeah. So that's about it. A short video. If you guys have any questions, just put them in the comments or just ask me at the lab. Hopefully you will never be peasants from now on and you will forever use the debugger. It's really, really helpful. It will save you a lot of time. Maybe it will cost you 10 to 15 minutes in the beginning before you get used to it. But after, it will just be a necessity. And trust me, in at least 1 year from now on, you're gonna thank me. All right, good luck. Bye-bye.